Testing. 1, 2, 3, testing.
Hello.
Dory Funk Jr.
Yes, how you doing?
Hi, this is Gary, and you are on the air. How you doing? Good to have you with us.
Hey, great. Thrilled to have a chance to talk to the people out in Arizona, and I know you guys are all looking forward to it. WrestleMania comes there next year.
Absolutely. We never thought we'd see it in Arizona, but here it comes. Dory, congratulations on the Hall of Fame with the WWE. Very well deserved.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And my thanks to the entire McMahon family, the WWE team. They did a wonderful job out there in Houston, and I know when they come to Arizona, they'll do the same.
Dory, what does it feel like, 1969, NWA champion, and to this day, still so heavily involved in the world of professional wrestling? I mean, did you ever dream you'd have a career that would span so many years?
I never dreamed it. Not one bit. And am totally appreciative to the fans that have supported me, the wrestlers that I had the opportunity to work with, and very much appreciative to the kids that I've trained that have done so well. Maybe you know I had 6 wrestlers that trained with me that were on WrestleMania 25. The 2 Hardy Boys, Mark Henry, Mickey James, Edge, and Christian. And it seems like every day that goes by, something else comes up. I know in '69, my father was with me, and he basically told me, "You've done everything you can do." Here we are 40 years later, and it's still going.
Well, your dad passed away in the early 1970s. Would he ever have dreamed professional wrestling would have become what it became?
You know, I think he would have expected it to be as big. I'm not sure he would have seen the direction. I know that national television changed the wrestling business. I think that's the driving force behind WWE and their tremendous success. Back in the 70s, there were 30 separate promotions with individual television stations. That had to change, and I think WWE's done a tremendous job being able to change with the times.
Dory, I've always wondered, when you were NWA champion, what was the schedule like? What was it like physically to keep going night in and night out and to be the last match on the card every night?
Every night. It was awesome. The opportunity to be in the ring and perform for the fans was fabulous. I absolutely loved it. Generally, I work 6 nights a week, sometimes 7 nights a week, and several times a week wrestling in the ring for a complete hour. But wrestling in the ring was my exercise program. And I think professional wrestling is the greatest aerobic exercise you can do. And it just worked out for me. Fortunately, I didn't have a lot of injuries to deal with, and I enjoyed every minute that I could perform for the fans.
Dory, being that you wrestled 6 nights a week and that you were the last match on the card, did you fly in between city to city? Did you have to stay at a hotel that night and fly out the next morning, or was it?
Absolutely. I was virtually flying 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week, and even most of the territories were rather spread out, so we'd fly those trips too. But in all honesty, I had such a reputation for showing up on time, showing up, period. Not necessarily on time, but they could count on it, I was going to be there. So I had plenty of time to get my rest. I could show up at the arenas, basically around match time, and everybody knew I was going to be there. And it was just a wild 4.5 years. Many times I would go in the ring and meet my opponent for the first time as we came in the ring to face each other.
What percentage of the matches went 60 minutes?
I'd say 40%, maybe higher, but probably about 40%.
When you knew that night that you were going to go 60, were there ever nights that you just dreaded it and wish it would be maybe 20 or 30?
Never.
Okay.
Never. Always enjoyed working for the fans.
Was there ever a time while you were world champion that you looked at yourself and said, I can't believe that I'm able to keep up this schedule of A, traveling, and B, every night, that type of activity in the ring? I mean,
it was kind of my life. With the Amarillo territory, I was partners with my brother and my father. And there, we used to wrestle 7 nights a week with television on Saturdays. That was 8 nights a week. And we'd travel by car. And not only do that, we'd handle the territory, book the shows, book the matches. I lived professional wrestling. And NWA World Championship was a fabulous 4.5-year run of first-class travel, first-class hotels. It was difficult on my family. It was a lot of time away from home, but there were rewards, too.
Dory, during that time, who would you say the number one opponent was? Like, for example, Ric Flair had Ricky Steamboat. Who was that guy?
There were several. Jack Briscoe, Wahoo McDaniel, Johnny Valentine, Gene Kiniski up in Vancouver, the Sheik in Detroit, Lonnie Main up in the Northwest in Portland, Chavo Guerrero, the Olympic Auditorium, Harley Race in Kansas City, Fritz Von Erich at Texas Stadium, Red Bastien in Houston. The list just went on and on. I did write out a list in preparation for going to the Hall of Fame induction.
Yeah.
And it was endless. It was unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, and it's amazing that it's so long ago, yet you're still so relevant in the world of wrestling. And the same with your brother Terry. The career extended so long, and many names from the 60s and 70s long forgotten, but you two have just done an amazing job, and you still get in the ring today, correct?
Oh yeah, sure. With the Funky Conservatory. Training with the kids, and sometimes on our cards here in Ocala, Florida. Yes, I absolutely love it.
Have the injury? I know the injuries caught up with Terry. Have they caught up with you? Not as badly as Terry, right?
I was very fortunate. I had one serious injury, which was a knee injury, and Gene Kiniski up in Vancouver encouraged me to show up and go ahead and work out my shots. And he was there to tape my knee every night for the better part of a month. And then he showed me how to do it myself. And I avoided surgery and have had excellent health and good luck since.
Dory, after you lost the championship to Jack Briscoe, correct?
To Harley Race.
To Harley Race. After you lost it to Harley, was it difficult to go back to being more of a normal wrestler?
No, I had a business to run. We were, I was right back in the Amarillo territory. And in partnership with my father and my brother, shortly thereafter, my father passed away. And with that, Terry and I were totally involved in the promotion of the Amarillo territory.
Now,
and wrestling there at the same time.
The Amarillo territory today is one of the forgotten territories. It's not too much videotape. You don't see it on YouTube. You guys had TV back then, naturally, right?
Yeah, it's a terrible thing, but in those days we thought everything would go on forever, and those tapes were all overwritten. We'd use a videotape over and over, and I really regret that now. The Amarillo TV show was an awesome TV show, very creative, and I wish there was more of that around, but there's very, very little.
I remember in the 1970s, we used to get Los Angeles on Channel 41 out of New Jersey. It was the Spanish International Network. And 1 week, they substituted the Amarillo show for the Los Angeles show. Did you have anything to do with that?
I remember that. That was in the days of the National Wrestling Alliance.
It was like 1977.
Yeah, there was some distribution of NWA territory videotapes. And it was kind of a cooperation thing among the NWA members. And it worked very well, but NWA was a tremendous organization, but when it came to national television, Vince McMahon was out there in front, and he saw the future of wrestling, and jumped right on it.
Dory, do you think that Vince was destined to become the leader, or do you think there were mistakes made by others where they had the opportunity to become the leader?
Well, Vince made all the right decisions, and he took the chances. I've heard stories. I believe he invested everything in the future of his business in the way that he saw that it was going to go, and took the big chance of getting it all or nothing. And Vince was the one that was willing to do that, and it turned out very successful.
But Dory, before it happened, you were actively involved with the business. You were the booker for Jim Crockett. Did you think it was going to be Vince, or you didn't know who it was going to be, or what was your thinking going before Vince?
Well, back in those days, Ted Turner and TBS were very, very strong. Vince was strong. As I was booking for North Carolina, Crockett Jr. made some moves to go to a national television show. Eddie Einhorn, owner of the Chicago White Sox, a few years before, had a very successful national television show. But none of those followed up like Vince McMahon did. Even, way back when I was a kid at the International Amphitheater in Chicago with Jack Brickhouse, they had a national TV show. Jim Barnett had a national TV show. But none of them really followed it up like Vince did.
Yeah. And then, of course, Vince became... You know Vince pretty well, right?
Very well, yes.
And you were one of the first people to convert over to the NWA as he was expanding nationally. What was it like to suddenly go from the NWA to the WWF at the time?
You know, it's wrestling, it's entertainment. It amounts to what you can do for the wrestling fans, and that hasn't changed. And if the fans feel like they get a little more than their money's worth, they'll come back in larger and larger crowds. That is the story of the wrestling business. What can you do for the company, and what can you do for the fans? And he's done a terrific job of that. That was always my goal, is always try to come back to a bigger crowd the following time you come into a city.
Absolutely. Now, your father, Dory Funk Sr., in the 60s and the 70s, he was one of the top performers in the business, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And, people wonder where...
I would think he was the most creative performer in the business.
People wonder where Terry gets a lot of this creativity, almost to the point of the extreme. Well, to the point of the extreme in his matches. Your father was doing a lot of this stuff way before Terry's time.
Oh, it's on my website. I anticipated having the opportunity to do about a 30-minute speech at WrestleMania, and time-wise, it didn't work out that way. So on my website at dory-funk.com, I've got my complete, unedited, uncensored, unabridged speech for the acceptance to the WrestleMania Hall of Fame, WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
In that I cover it, I make the comment that I had my father was my teacher. I had my first match when I was 7. My brother had his first match when he was 4. However, Terry had his first street fight when he was only 3 years old.
Wow.
And nothing has changed. Okay.
Amazing. What was it like? I got to ask you about the Sheik, Ed Farrad. I was talking the other day with Lanny Poffo, and he had a lot of stories about the Sheik. When the Sheik's promotion in Detroit around 77 was going downhill, you and Terry came in and tried to save it for him, correct?
Correct.
Something happened there. Can you share it with us?
The big problem was the Sheik lost his major television station. And without major television in a city or throughout the country, wrestling is about television. It's about television promotion. That was the real problem. And we worked our tails off out there and built up to a big crowd at Joe Louis Arena. And but it was like we were fighting uphill all the time, because back then, you remember what a UHF television station was. You either had a UHF or VHF, and the Sheik lost his major television in Detroit, and had to go to a small UHF station. So that was the real problem, and that's why things went bad.
Were you surprised in the early 70s the Sheik was he was professional wrestling, at least from the heel side? Were you
Absolutely. I wrestled the Sheik in Honolulu, Hawaii, Detroit's Cobo Hall, throughout the Amarillo territory, and it was just capacity business all the time.
Were you surprised how quickly his career kind of went downhill at that point? Because he had a record in Toronto of an undefeated streak at Maple Leaf Gardens that was second.
He also had a record of sellouts in Toronto at Maple Leaf Gardens.
But then
I did wrestle him up there too.
But then his appeal seemed to just drop off, and maybe he was getting. Do you think it was because he's getting a bit older, or the act was a little bit?
In Japan, he never lost his appeal to the wrestling fans.
Yeah.
I think it was, in my opinion, it was the television situation, the loss of his promotion as a profitable organization, and the loss of his position that he was in. Man, we used to go out to Vegas, and he'd drop so much money at the tables, and he'd win so much money. But he was hell-bent for later, go-after-life type of person. And I just have a lot of respect for him.
Dory, did you used to go to the NWA conventions?
Oh, yeah, sure. I was a member of the board of directors for a long time. Some of the champions during my reign at the NWA as member of the board of directors included Harley Race, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair.
What was it like at those conventions? Well, how many days? Where would you go? They were in Vegas, right?
It was Vegas at the Dunes Hotel, and it was 30 promoters from across the country, all meeting in one room trying to figure out how they could benefit the wrestling business. Now,
Vince McMahon Sr. was not really a part of the NWA, but he was still a member, correct?
He was a member of the National Wrestling Alliance, yes. He was a full-fledged member.
Did he have
influence? In fact, he also served on the board of directors.
So he had influence as to who would be NWA champion, even though the NWA champion wouldn't be appearing for him?
I couldn't answer that question.
Okay, fair enough. Was there ever any talk, Dory, when you were champion of battle for the belts, a merger of the champions?
Bruno Sammartino was having huge success in his area, which was New York and the East Coast, and I was having huge success with the NWA worldwide, and there was never, strangely enough, as great as it would have been and as much as I would have liked to have done it, there was never really a lot of conversation about it.
Did you regret not getting the chance to work as champion in Madison Square Garden, or?
Yeah, I don't have any regrets as champion. Okay. I really don't. It was just a fabulous time. I really enjoyed it.
But for the people in the NWA, there was this vision of appearing in Madison Square Garden, right?
There's prestige to everything. I mean, how can you beat Texas Stadium?
Yeah.
And at that time, they were Super Bowl champions, and Roger Staubach was their quarterback, and I had the privilege of wrestling Fritz von Erich in Texas Stadium. St. Louis,
1972,
Kiel Auditorium was considered the apex of professional wrestling, along with Madison Square Garden. The Gator Bowl in Jacksonville, Florida was Jack Briscoe and I sold out there. There were so many places that I was proud to be a part of wrestling in, and Madison Square Garden was definitely one of them. And it is unfortunate that I didn't have the opportunity to go there, but I don't regret anything.
Yeah. Now, you did finally go to the Garden when you came to the WWF, right?
Sure, yes.
Did it disappoint you, or was it as good as you expected? Or, obviously it wasn't a big deal for you, but how did it feel to finally come to New York and wrestle?
It's always a thrill to, and especially to be able to perform in front of new fans.
Okay.
They haven't had the chance to see me in person. And I know that up in New York and in the East Coast, it was a long time coming, but the fans were terrific.
I'm going to ask you about one more thing, Dory. I promised I wouldn't keep you that long. I want to ask you about when you sold out the territory that you and your brother ran. Was it difficult for you to give it up? It was the late 1970s, and Vince was nowhere near ready to go national. Or was it just time to get out?
You know, I think it was it was time. There were a lot of things that I needed to accomplish. Among some of them, getting closer to my kids and family. I think it was an opportunity for us to be able to do some things we hadn't been able to do before, and I don't regret it. But it was a wonderful territory and a great place for the wrestling business. I do still miss it.
Do you think if you had kept it, that at what point would
I think if I would have kept it, we would have had the Funky Conservatory Wrestling School. We would have, I think, we would have flourished. We had the Funky Conservatory Wrestling School in Amarillo instead of Ocala, Florida. But Ocala, Florida is wonderful too.
So you think that it might have been transformed into something a bit different, but it could have still been going today?
Oh, certainly.
Wow.
Sure, we're still going today in Ocala, Florida.
Well, you've reinvented yourself in some ways. Dory, one more question. In Texas, it was a little odd because you had 4 major promotions. You had Joe Blanchard in San Antonio, Fritz Von Erich in Dallas, Paul Bosch in Houston. You had West Texas. How was it like coordinating the state with 4 different promotions?
It was a fabulous business. In all honesty, they were one territory. Fritz Von Erich was the boss down there. And in the Amarillo territory, it was my father, and that also included El Paso, Albuquerque, Colorado, Lubbock, Midland, Odessa, and Pueblo, Colorado. We worked, in those days, if we wanted to bring talent from their territory to our territory, it was a phone call to Fritz, or whoever was his booker. And if we wanted to bring in Danny Hodge from Oklahoma, it was a phone call to Leroy McGurk. If we wanted Harley Race from Kansas City, it was a phone call to Bob Geigel. And, you know, those people all worked together, and the wrestlers traveled between territories, and business was good. It was different than the way wrestling business is now. It's what they call old school, but it was very innovative, and it was very good business back then.
Dory, when the world class took off in 82, 83, and 84, and you had been promoting in Texas, it must have surprised you because Texas had never seen anything like that before.
You know, I would have thought at the time they were on Christian Broadcast Network across the country. They had the same opportunity that Vince had. And I remember they came to the East Coast and they drew $80,000 or something. There were people, they drew a big, huge house with the Von Erichs and the Freebirds, but they didn't seem to follow up like Vince did.
It was in Lynn, Massachusetts. It was in
okay, you're right. You know where it was.
Yeah, it was 1983.
1983, yeah.
They came on a summer tour, and it was an outdoor stadium, and it was packed, and they left, and they never came back.
Yes, and everybody said they'll be back. They never came back.
Dory, was there something about Fritz that he just did? I know you have a lot of respect for him, but something in his personality where he couldn't take advantage of it, whereas Vince did?
Gee, I don't know. All I know is, for what I knew of Fritz, he was a box office attraction for us in Amarillo.
Yep.
His kids were fabulous to work with, especially David and Carrie, who I was around more than the others. And I couldn't guess why he didn't follow up. He certainly, with World Class and the national television show, had a fine thing in professional wrestling.
Well, it's just one of the stories. It's like a what if. What if they had, taken advantage of it before? Because they had an edge on Vince, and the Von Erichs were red hot, and it's a kind of a sad story the way it went. But, Dory, again, I want to thank you and congratulate you, the WWE Hall of Fame. Look, nobody deserves it more than you. You deserve it more than anybody, and I want to congratulate you. Dory, thank you very much for appearing with us.
Okay, can you stay on the line just a second?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Okay.
you there?
Yeah, go ahead, Dory.
Okay, is this internet?
Yes.
Can I get what's website is it on?
I will send you all the links.
Okay, please, okay?
I will send them to you today.
Okay, you got our email and
Everything. You'll have it within a couple hours.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Enjoy
Dory.
it.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay,
goodbye.
bye-bye. Bye-bye.